It's always like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. Super Console X is a lineup of basically Android boxes that are modified in combination with MU-ELEC. And in combination with this you can just play all kinds of retro emulation. It's absolutely crazy, but what's even more crazy, with the new model it seems to be, or they are claiming, that we have more stuff to play now. On the box you can see we're having the game console and the stick, but it seems to be they're also having just an arcade stick that you can plug in the other one, so you have a two-player configuration. So what I understand of this is running on the S905X3 chip. It's not the most powerful one, but it will give us more options, especially when it comes to MU-ELEC. It also has an Android box on the inside. I'm not going to look at it, I just want to mainly focus this unboxing review for the stuff that we're going to get on the inside, and especially the hardware. Another thing that you're going to get in the box is an adapter, an HDMI cable, everything that you're just going to need. But this is basically what we're going to get inside the box itself. Let's take a close look at the manual. And the manual is a very nice unfoldable toilet paper deluxe manual that gives not like a lot of explanations. You know, QR code, you need to scan it to get more information whatsoever. There are two different colors out there, a completely black version and this 8-bit clone, or better said Famicom layout. I think it's pretty damn cool. We're having all the necessary buttons for playing every single game when it comes to arcade. Then having the joystick over here. The joystick is just a typical Chinese long travel joystick, nothing very special. Beside that, nothing bad of course, and here we're having all of the functions in combination: turbo, home, mode, select and start. But everything that you're going to need for playing games and emulation, this is just more than enough. So at the back we're going to get ourselves an AV out. It's kind of funny they're still adding this to it. And then having the USB out, HDMI out, then we're having the RE45 input for the power supply and a separate on-off switch. That is very convenient because not every single game box has this. And of course a Type-C connection. And for the Type-C they're also going to give you this extra converter from Type-C to USB 3.0. So with the Super Console Arcade X3, we're just going to get ourselves already mentioned at the beginning of this video. The S905X3 comes with 4GB RAM. The ROM file in total is 32GB when it comes to the Android box. Not going to need it. And then we're going to need a minimum of 5V 3A. It looks like a pretty decent power supply. It does have not a really nice weight to it. It feels kind of plastic. Fantastic. The S905X3 is the new chip that they're using in this new version, but it also means that we're going to get a different MU-ELEC version. In combination with the HyperMax V8 skin and of course MU-ELEC 4.5, we're going to get some new cool looks, but also we're going to get ourselves new different things that we can do with it compared with the older Super Console X arcade stick. But the old stuff runs just fine on the older model. Why should you consider getting an S905X3? To be honest, all the way up to PlayStation, and it runs just fine on the older but also the newer model. PlayStation Portable will not be better in some ways. You cannot really run God of War. We have seen it many times before now. I think when you're looking at some other systems like Sega Dreamcast, we're going to get better performance. So the improvement when it comes to the new MU-ELEC was going to be more on the background and with some new additional emulators. I think it's a very cool thing, and they should just did that in the first place. That is something I just said to them. It's like the S905X3 should be in the machine at the first time you released it. Because the S905, the old school one they were using and the previous one, was absolutely out of date. For the most people who play old school games it's enough, but if you want to have more power and more stuff like the Sega Saturn, we didn't have the option with the older model. But let's get into the Atomic Wave to begin with. If you're looking at the FPS, but also you can just hear that it does struggle here and there. Unfortunate, this is not a chipset that will run Atomic Wave perfectly every single game, but as we've seen in the previous boxes that we've reviewed here on the channel. But it will stay above the 50 at least. But getting into the 16-bit stuff, I just want to quickly show you that there's not going to be any problem whatsoever. We can find the weirdest stuff that you can play actually on an emulation machine. So let's tune in the Sega Saturn, one of the new systems with this new MU-ELEC 4.5. But when you're looking at the right top corner, you will see that it runs around 40 FPS. It's stable, but when it comes to 3D-dimensional games on Sega Saturn, it's not a very good combination. Okay, so in the next round I just wanted to check out a 2-dimensional game on Sega Saturn platform, and here we can see that it runs on 60 FPS. So when it comes to 2-dimensional stuff, we have seen it many times before, also with handhelds and stuff like that. Then we're going to get way better performance with the less demanding games. So it's not all bad thing with the S905 X3. We can still play a lot of cool things when it comes to Sega Saturn.
Escape from the castle.
Well, let's try a different game. Always trying to find the freaking buttons. But when it comes to the FPS, you can just, it drops down to 55, 40, 40, 54, whatever.
Don't miss
Dipping to the 50.
or else you'll be sorry.
But actually when you're going to play the game, I don't really notice it at all. Oh yeah, so there is also no music, so that is not like it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's get into Sega Nomi, because I was really curious how Dead Alive will run on that. And it will dip almost all the way to the 40s. Was as expected, because the chipset is not powerful enough to run it on 60 FPS. Same story with Sega Saturn. It's going to be like running fine if you're going to have some two-dimensional games. But when you're looking at the Super Console X3, it's absolutely way better than the older version. Even some PlayStation Portable games, three-dimensional games, are playable. It still runs on native resolution and the original FPSs. This is running on 30 FPS. Pressing select, we can go into the settings and we can mess around with it here. If you just want to like tweak and just check out if we can make it a little bit better, like let's say upscaling, you can always mess around with it. The unfortunate thing is that we need to remove all of the rubber pads. Yep, it's going to be a nightmare getting these things back. But let's take a close look in the inside what we're actually going to get with this. Because if you want to replace or upgrade anything, it's not going to be any problem whatsoever. And that is what I really like about these things. At the top part, we're going to get ourselves a basic connection. And you can replace them with a Samba joystick or whatsoever you want to. So that is going to be absolutely great. So replacement of the joystick is no problem whatsoever. Then the joystick is the same story. They did great cable management over here. The cables are all the way going to the encoder board that's implemented in this part of the joystick. We can just replace every single thing and you can just upgrade it if you want to. So at the bottom here we're going to get a very interesting thing, that we're having a metal plate for some extra weight. And it's a little bit of cheating of course, but on the other side it's great that they're doing it because it gives the thing so much more stability on your table. Over here we're having the tiny cable goes from the PCB on the top over there, or the encoder board, and they're having the tiny cable goes to the Type-C port at the back. And here we're having the main board. The main board has now an active fan, absolutely great, and also implemented an extra protection that there are no cables can get into the fan itself. So that's absolutely cool. So the main board is kind of the same measurements when you're looking at the previous Super Console X's. Modules over here. Oh, there we go. They didn't go big. A very big, thin thermal pad on there. That's great. Remove the fan. Oh, so this can be replaced if you want to. Here we're going to have ourselves like another set of RAM chips. And indeed the AM Logic S905 X3. So that's basically what we're going to get with the main board itself. The Super Console X3 is absolutely a cool product in many ways. It's just a game box inside an arcade stick, plug and play and ready. I think it's very cool, and with ME-ELEC we're having so many things you can just change out that we're missing with Pandora's boxes or other products. The X3 is a great chip, it has a lot to offer, but of course it's not the best one. If you're looking into the PlayStation Portable N64 or some other system we've tested out, we have seen some, let's say overall, okay performance. I want to thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great to see you in the next video.